Direct News TV. June 29, 2023. Updates: Wagner will not fight in Ukraine war, says Russian official. Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin has been notified that his forces will no longer fight in Ukraine after he refused to sign Russian military contracts, a senior lawmaker said. The Kremlin declines to answer questions about Sergei Surovikin, the Russian general reportedly detained after the Wagner Group's aborted weekend rebellion. Change of leadership in Russia not our goal, says German Chancellor. Germany is not seeking a change of government in Russia, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said, stressing his support for Baltic countries and Poland. Scholz spoke after arriving at a two-day European Union summit in Brussels. Our goal here is not a change of government, a regime change in Russia, Scholz said, adding that Germany is not party to what is happening in Russia. Every attack on NATO territory is a matter to which we have to respond collectively, Scholz said, stressing his support for the countries concerned. Ukraine wants NATO invite at Vilnius summit, urges, courage, Zelensky aid. Ukraine wants to receive an invitation to begin the process of joining NATO at the Military Alliances Summit next month, and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky will not attend if leaders do not show courage, a presidential aide has said. Chief diplomatic advisor Igor Zovkva told Reuters that Kyiv wanted the July 11, 12 NATO summit in Vilnius, Lithuania to deliver a response to the application for NATO membership that Ukraine filed on September 30, 2022. This application is now on the tables of the leaders of NATO allies. The Vilnius summit would be a very good start to respond to this application. And by respond, we mean invitation for membership, which is only the first stage, he said. In an interview in the heavily guarded president's office in Kyiv, the Zelensky aide said, "What we are asking for is to start the procedure," and banged on the table at one point to drive his point home. Russian Patriarch tells Papal Envoy, "Together we can avert negative political developments." The head of Russia's Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill, has told an envoy of Pope Francis that their churches should work together to avert negative political developments and serve the cause of peace and justice. Kirill, a strong supporter of Putin's decision to send troops into Ukraine, was speaking to the papal envoy Cardinal Matteo Zuppi during talks in Moscow. Ukraine asks residents in northeast border region to evacuate. People living in the northeast region of Sumy should evacuate due to constant Russian shelling, the Ukrainian army has written on Telegram. I call on everyone, please flee to save your own lives. Lieutenant General Serhiy Nayev wrote. He said local authorities were helping with the evacuation. Russia was using rocket launchers, artillery and glide bombs in the area on a daily basis, he said. The Sumy section remains the most dangerous in the northern area of operations, Nayev underlined. NATO to show it stands behind Ukraine at summit, US. NATO is nearing consensus on how to address Ukraine's membership push at its upcoming summit, and aims to show it is moving above and beyond an earlier promise to Kyiv, the US NATO envoy has said. U.S. Ambassador to NATO Julianne Smith said the final version of the summit communiqué could begin to answer how Ukraine will eventually become an alliance member. I think most of us feel confident that we are going to be able to come to an agreement that will reflect where we are and that the Ukrainians will believe and feel is something above and beyond restating Bucharest, she said. She said that eventually allowing Ukraine to skip a membership action plan, laying out benchmarks to be met for membership, was one option that we're looking at. Turkish President Erdogan condemns burning of a Quran in Sweden. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has slammed Sweden over the burning of a Quran as Stockholm awaits Ankara's approval to join NATO. We will teach the arrogant Western people that it is not freedom of expression to insult the sacred values of Muslims, he told members of his ruling AK party on the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Adha. Erdogan promised a strong reaction to what he called a vile protest. A series of protests in Sweden against Islam and for Kurdish rights have heightened tensions with Turkey, whose backing Sweden needs to join NATO. NATO should look at skipping requirements for Ukraine, UK. British Defence Minister Ben Wallace said NATO should look at skipping the requirement for Ukraine's membership action plan as part of its pathway to joining the alliance. "I think we should absolutely look at skipping the membership action plan," he said at a joint news conference alongside his Canadian counterpart in London. Former U.S. Vice President visits Ukraine. Former U.S. Vice President Mike Pence made a surprise visit to Ukraine to meet Zelensky, NBC News reported. Running to be the Republican Party's electoral nomination in the 2024 presidential election, Pence told NBC News, "Visiting Ukraine just steals my resolve to do my part, to continue to call for strong American support for our Ukrainian friends and allies." Pence, a vocal Putin critic, is the first Republican presidential candidate to meet Zelensky during the campaign. Russian ambassador rules out Swiss-hosted peace summit. Russia's ambassador to Switzerland said Moscow could not accept any Swiss-hosted peace summit on Ukraine after it enforced sanctions. In an interview with Le Temps newspaper published on Thursday, Sergei Garmanin said Russia would not accept that Switzerland, which traditionally has served as a location for high-level talks between feuding powers, host a peace summit. "Swiss representation and mediation are out of the question," Garmanin said. "Switzerland has unfortunately lost its status as a neutral state and can no longer act as a mediator or as a representative of interests." On June 15, Zelensky invited Switzerland to host a global peace summit on the conflict and suggested that Bern could act as a mediator. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.